So he goes on with Andrew Schulz, who did such a nice interview of Trump. I have to say, it was very funny. He's a comedian and he is hysterical. If you ever get a chance, watch his Netflix specials and you can go back and find our episodes. We'll get you the numbers. But I died. I laughed so hard every time I've talked to this guy. He's so R-rated, but so funny. Anyway, so he asked Trump, they get into the subject of Trump's nicknames for everybody. Look at this bit in SOT 13.
I'm good with names, you know.
You are.
You're very good with names.
I mean, Pocahontas.
Yeah.
We have names.
What about, and there was, Tampon Tim was good. What about,
Tim, the problem with Tampon Tim, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
In other words,
It's a mouthful.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Tampon. And you can't stutter it through when you call it. It's really a lousy word to say.
Yeah.
But it's quite accurate, right? there are some, like Comrade Kamala. It's a little hard to say. She's comrade because she's obviously a communist.
Yeah.
She's horrible. So I call her comrade.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. But when you put the names together, it's a little, you got to be able to no, you got to be able to put it out there.
I mean, honestly, he'll talk to you about anything. He'll tell you how he comes up with the nicknames. By the way, the name of the podcast is Flagrant. Glenn.
Well, just two things about that, Megyn. One is the Pocahontas thing is exactly the kind of thing I was just talking about. I remember all liberals believed that him calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas was somehow racist, when in fact he was mocking her racism for having claimed Native American status to advance her career when she in fact was not Native American. Pocahontas wasn't mocking Native Americans, actual Native Americans. It was mocking Elizabeth Warren for pretending to be one when she wasn't.
So you either is a pretendian.
Exactly. The other thing is, I find this so interesting, is I've seen a lot of this, having worked with Rumble now for a while and kind of delved more into this sort of subcultures on the internet. Fame is now so fragmented. There are a lot of people who have a lot of influence and a lot of fame who most people who work in mainstream media have never heard of, let alone even talked about. There's this whole kind of subculture on the internet with people who have millions and millions of viewers, way more than most people on television, and they're unknown. I guarantee if you ask most people who work in media or politics who Andrew Schulz is, they would have no idea, even though he commands, a gigantic audience, or Theo Von, people like this. It's a really interesting thing. And younger people in particular, have no idea who, say, George Stephanopoulos is, but you ask them who Kai Cenat is or iShowSpeed, and those are their celebrities. Those are the people who they listen to. And the internet has really fragmented fame in this way that I think is super interesting. And Trump has been going on those shows, I think, oriented by Barron, who listens to them, because that's who young people listen to, in a way that has been really effective.
That's a good point. Meanwhile, Tampon Tim went over, he gave some speech last night and they put him next to some gamer. This is the Harris's response to the Trump appeal to young men. They put him next to a gamer who was playing the game online in a split screen next to Tim Walz. I'll just show you a little bit of what this, none of us totally understood this. Here it is.
I hear this. I don't know. I don't really like Donald Trump's personality, but I like his proposals. Which ones? Tax cuts to billionaires? Taking away women's reproductive rights? Not dealing with climate change? Not having a plan for immigration?
Okay. I'm not sure that's the same thing. I'm not sure that's going to get it done with the young men, Glenn, but that's what they're doing.
I mean, you can go and try and speak to certain voters if you're a natural the way Trump is. Like, he fits in very well with those shows. He talks about the same things they talk about in the way that he talks about them. If you do it, though, in a way that's totally condescending, like, hi, I'm Tim Walz in my relax mode, here to talk to you young people while I game, and it comes off as super cringy. I remember the 2016 Hillary Clinton campaign really believed that if they dragged Lena Dunham around everywhere and remember she took over Hillary Clinton's Instagram account, that this is going to be the thing that was going to propel all these young people to go out in droves and support because they see Lena Dunham as the representative, and if Hillary hung around with her enough, it's so out of touch. Like, you either have that ability or you don't. And in those two clips, you see who has it and who doesn't.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh. Here I am, my normal person. By the way, the Andrew Schulz MK episodes our episode number 74 and 358. 74 and 358. So funny. Okay, so let me keep going because on the subject of Trump's humor, I'll tell you this. When I went and interviewed him in September of last year, one of the comments I made on this show when we were debriefing about it after the fact was how Trump does meander. You know, he meanders. You ask him a question about, you know, this pen, and then we're meandering down a lot of lanes. But I made the point, he always comes back and answers your question about the pen. Like he does. He uses his opportunity to answer to say the things he wants to say, the things that are on his mind, whatever, but he will get back to you on that pen at the end. And this came up in the Andrew Schulz interview yesterday. I've never heard him describe it quite this way. Take a listen to SOT 11.
You know, I do a thing called a weave. I don't ramble. If I start a story, what you do is you weave things and you do it. You need an extraordinary memory because you have to come back to where you started.
Yes.
You always, a weave is only good
They
if
don't
you
give you
come
credit
back.
for that.
Yeah, it's true.
That you could go all the way over here and then
I
get
can
back.
go so far here or there, and I can come back to exactly where I started. Now, someday when you don't come back to where you started,
You're Biden.
then you say,
You're Biden. The weave. He's been kind of defensive about his rambling because he's been taking criticism and sometimes he does ramble. But it's interesting to hear him like own it, right? It's not like Kamala with like, I am the strength and he is the weakness. He's like, let me talk to you about the things people are saying about me.
I mean, I really think this is the key thing going on in this election, and it's been the key to Trump since he's emerged, which is the one thing you get from polls is that everybody hates politicians, they hate the political class, they hate establishment institutions. That's undeniable. Even obviously, Trump in the beginning, there was this incredible novelty to him because he acted and spoke like no other person did who had a chance to be president, let alone who became one. After 8 years, maybe that novelty has worn off some. People are not as excited by it. But even still, after being president, having run 3 times, the way he speaks, the things he's willing to say, the way he's willing to joke about things, it's so radically different than almost any other politician that if you hate politicians, if you hate the political class, you see on the one hand Kamala Harris, who's the living, breathing embodiment of the establishment, that every word that comes out of her mouth seems calculated, even when it's inept, on the one hand. And then you see Trump being able to go onto these shows and just speak in the most, you know, the way ordinary people speak and without any concern for the impact of what he's saying. And that continues to be his greatest strength.
He doesn't care. He'll be self-deprecating. He'll kind of, he's in on it. He's in on the jokes about him, who's mocked his own hair. They asked him about his truthfulness on the podcast too, in a good exchange, SOT 14.
I'll tell you what bothers me. Kamala the other day said, he is against IVF. And everybody knows that that's false. She has an add-on that I'm against IVF. She knows it's untrue. She has an add-on that bloodbath. She lied about many things, and she's a liar. There should be some kind of a rule when they know it's a lie, you can't do a commercial on it. I have a hard time doing it to them because I'm basically a truthful person. But and frankly, she's given me so much ammunition. I don't really have to. I mean, she's a radical left lunatic who will destroy our nation.
I have to say I appreciated it. I appreciated the basically. That's Trump with a wink and a nod saying, I'm still a politician and I know who I am. But I honestly, that's the irony of Trump. You put down like Trump's lies next to Kamala's lies, and Kamala's lies is as long as Santa's scroll. I mean, it just goes on and around the world. Trump does lie, there's no question, but he's not like she is, and never mind her running mate who can't even open his mouth without giving us another lie.
I also, what I think is, I'm not necessarily ready to say there's a gigantic difference in the quantity of lies that Democrats tell and Trump tells. But what I think is important is that, as you say, it's the self-awareness. The Democrats, pretty much as their defining trait, are so sanctimonious. They're so self-righteous. They would never engage in self-deprecating humor in that way, like a wink and a nod about how, because they think they really are the living, breathing embodiment of benevolence and nobility and all things good in the world. Whereas Trump doesn't put on that air. He's willing to kind of joke about himself, even in those moments where he's saying things that he knows might not be true. There's a kind of a winking cynicism to it. And I think that's why he just comes across as so much more likable.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't know what the delta is between the two of them, but her lies are all over the airwaves. He's exactly right. And she'll lie about things that have been debunked over and over and over. She just doesn't care. Here is the last thing that I wanted to show you. He told a story, Andrew Schulz asked him a story about Don Jr. that he got from Don Jr. And here's that exchange, stop 15.
I would drive him crazy. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I would say that.
Did you say that to Don Jr.?
Yeah, Don's a little wild.
He told me a funny story. And he said to me, he goes, once he asked if he could have a couple of his friends over for New Year's. Was it New Year? No, it was July 4th.
Right.
On top of Trump Tower.
Right.
And you said yes. He's like, I want 5 friends. You're like, okay, I'm out of town. Go for it. He brings 200 people over to Trump Tower. Okay?
That's right.
Okay. He says that you weren't supposed to be there. You end up showing up. You hear some noise upstairs. You come up. You go, what the fuck is everybody doing here? Get the hell out of my house. He said he cleaned for the next 36 hours. And he said, to this day, you have never brought up that it even happened. And he said, I'm starting to believe it might not have happened. Yeah. So can you give him closure?
No, it happened. No, I can never give closure.
Here's the follow-up too. Don Jr. tweeted it out after the fact. True story. He literally never even brought it up ever again. I waited for weeks waiting for the shoe to drop. My father never even mentioned it again, which was such a worse punishment than literally anything he could have done to me at the time. LOL. Those are nice moments. You will never, ever hear about that side of Trump from this media. Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you. Someone somewhere has stolen it. They've stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. It's called house stealing. That's what the FBI says. It's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name, then take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. By the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, Triple Lock Protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code Megyn for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure you're not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com by using the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.